Welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice. Join me as we explore spirituality, self-help, and channeling spirit. Hello and welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice, spiritual medium. Thank you for joining in. First of all, before we get the things rolling, I'd like to wish you all a happy new year. Welcome to 2026. May it be filled with blessings, desires, dreams coming true, and you living your best self. So let's tell you what's going to happen in today's show. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at the topic of higher self-alignment. Also in this week's episode, we have the channeling from the world of spirit, which sees me becoming a vessel for spirit to bring that wisdom and communication forward. And then later on in this episode, we have a sneaky peek into this week's forecast reading, and that's the first one of 2026. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to dive deep into today's topic, which is higher self-alignment. Okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about getting in alignment with the very best version of yourself so that you can experience life with ease, with ease. I'll say that again, with ease, with flow, and so that you can grow on a much more beautiful pathway rather than connecting in with struggle and pain and all the things that we don't like, if that makes sense to you. So what I want to encourage you to maybe look at first before you tread into the higher self-alignment is, first of all, you need to be willing to surrender. And just that word alone, surrender, for me personally, that was my major lesson in 2025. So potentially this could be your lesson of 2026 if you haven't already done this. And what I mean by surrender is the plans that you may have had set in stone, in concrete, that you were stubborn and rigid about. Yes, it's great to have plans. It's great to be organized. But sometimes we can be so organized that we organize ourselves out of opportunities that are coming towards us from the universe, and we miss those alignments because we're too dialed in to that focus. So we're talking about surrendering and being willing to surrender some of those plans set in stone. So be flexible, try and get that balance right with your plans and with the alignments of the universe. And if something, when you get into this stage, if something doesn't feel right to you, even though you've got it planned and set in stone, you trust that vibration because this is the universe speaking to you through your emotions. So carrying on with this reference of surrender, also be willing to surrender your belief systems. And what I mean by that are things, ideals, lessons that you've learned, information that you've learned throughout the course of your life, and you've regarded them as being the gospel truth. Well, I'm inviting you to take that leap of faith and to allow a lot of those to go. Only you can make that decision, which is right for you, which sits right with you, which doesn't anymore. So by doing that, by surrendering, and be willing also, another thing I forgot to mention, be willing to be wrong. We don't like to be wrong, do we? As individuals, we like to see ourselves as correct and perfect and, all of that, which is great. But in order to surrender, we have to, again, be humble and put our hands up and say, yeah, I don't know what I was talking about that there, or yeah, wrong about that. I thought, And that shows a great depth of responsibility and, just kindness, not only to yourself, but also you're connecting in with the truth vibrations by emitting those statements. So yeah, be willing to be wrong. And don't be ashamed of doing that, because it's through that process that we learn, that we grow, that we let go, and we expand, and we move into a higher state of consciousness. And that is the point of today's show and the conversation that we're having. So the next thing I believe you have to be willing to consider in this process of higher self-alignment is welcoming in peace into your life. Now, I know there's a society that we all live in where drama, where adrenaline-fueled programs and information are being thrown our way all the time to trigger us, to get a reaction, to maybe keep us small or in safe mode so that we don't expand into this higher self of consciousness. But welcoming in peace, what that means really is just opening up intentionally, inviting the lighter side of life into your experience. So, for example, as I've said, going into your feelings and observing how you feel about things, being willing to be wrong. Maybe years ago, I'll give a classic example. For me, years ago, I absolutely loved horror films. I adored them. I liked the way that they told the story. I particularly liked the gory effects, because at one time I wanted to be a special effects makeup artist on some of these films. But for whatever reason, that didn't unfold the way that I intended it to. I wasn't meant to do that. And over the years, this devotion to horror films and, respect for the craft of the horror films started to wane within me. And I noticed this because when I was watching them, I was obviously engaging in that art, because it is an art. Let's face it, a lot of time and effort does go into making these horror films. And with this being said, I was noticing that I was being triggered. My adrenaline was pumping high, if that makes sense. And after watching one of those films, I felt depleted, exhausted, drained, if you will. And I was finding it hard to function in life with other life duties because I've just watched that. I was emotionally attached and invested to it. So I was willing at that point. It took me years and years to get to that point. But when I realized, took a step back and pinpointed, well, actually, that feeling, those emotions I'm feeling now is attributed to me watching that sort of content. I began to realize that actually, maybe this isn't the content for me. Maybe this is causing more harm than good for me personally. Now, I'm not judging people that do watch them and enjoy them, because as I say, I used to. I was fascinated by them. But for whatever reason, I wasn't meant to be carrying on that pathway. So I was willing to let go of that belief system, that so-called pleasure that I believed was pleasure at the time. And in doing so, I opened up to peace. So I started to focus in on things that made me feel better, that made me feel calm, relaxed, not adrenalized, but more at peace with myself, more in harmony with myself. And I made choices in my life that aligned with that peace. And I've said this many times, and I'm going to say it again. As you know, I don't watch the news on TV or anything like that. I may catch headlines on social media that I quickly flick through and ignore them. But other than that, I couldn't tell you what's happening everywhere. And this is another way that I connect in with peace, because I did begin to notice when I was watching the news and hearing the headlines and all of this, that again, I was feeling that adrenalized state of being. I noticed my physicality began to tense up. My breathing quickened. And I was locked in to the word and the word play that was being portrayed before me by the newscasters. And let's face it, this does happen where they emphasize certain words that they want you to remember about that news bulletin. So I was noticing that, and noticing that those words were causing me a triggered emotional effect. So with that, I made that conscious choice that I wasn't going to have that in my vibration anymore. Instead, I want to welcome more peace, things that make me feel comfortable, relaxed, more of my true self. And so that is part of the process. And it is, I'll be honest with you, it can be quite conflicting at times, because there may be people in your household or your family or friends that still love those things. And this is also one of the things that you've got to get your head around, that just because it's not aligning with you in that moment of time doesn't mean that it's not aligning with those around you. So don't begin to control people by saying, oh, you're not watching that, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, because that is their path, that is their story. And maybe somewhere down the line, they will come to that realization, particularly like I have and what I'm describing to you. But nevertheless, let it be their journey. Let them decide for themselves what feels good, what is their peace, what is their alignment. Okay, the next thing we need to look at is gratitude for all the experiences in your life leading up to this moment when you're listening to this episode. And I'm talking about all things that you would perceive as good, all things that you perceive as bad. And let's face it, it is all about perception when all said and done, because what you perceive as good to somebody else, that might be their worst nightmare. And what you can perceive as bad, again, to somebody else, that could be someone's peak experience. So it's all about perception. But it's showing a level of gratitude by maybe reminiscing about those encounters, those experiences that you've had in your life, and actually saying, thank you, I appreciate that. In your mind, when you're thinking them over. And at the time when you went through those experiences, they could have been traumatic, very triggering, very unpleasant, or maybe the opposite of that. It could be very pleasurable. But regardless of the situation or your perception, by showing that level of gratitude, you're heightening the vibration around that thought, that memory, that triggered experience to that particular choice you made in your life. And you're showing that gratitude, you're heightening the vibration of it, and that is then going to help you to move to a higher self-alignment, because you're not allowing those experiences to pull you down, to hold you back, because you've shown love, appreciation to them. You've actually heightened the vibration and your connection to them. That is very important, and it can be a lengthy process. It's not an overnight thing by any means. As we know, for example, if you're reaching my age, there's a lot of life experiences and situations that you've gone through that you have to analyze and respect and show gratitude. So it is a continual process. So be kind, be loving, be gentle with yourself. But whilst you're going through this situation, you will notice that these thoughts, these feelings, these connections will start to come one after one to the surface of your consciousness. Now, many of us are generally quite busy, and we push those thoughts and feelings down and say, we haven't got time to process that. No, I don't want to think about that. That was so 18 years ago. Why am I thinking that now? Well, first of all, let's address that question. Why are you thinking that now? Even if it happened 18 years ago, you're thinking it now because it's time to release it. And the way that we do that is showing love and gratitude and kindness to it. Because that thought, that triggered emotion will keep rising to the surface, and it will gain momentum and feel worse every time that it comes up, until you actually confront it and address it and show that respect and gratitude to it. Once you've done that, you will no longer have an issue or a problem with that memory or emotion ever again. Well, that is my encounter. That is my experience of the process. Like I say, it doesn't happen overnight. It is a state of unfoldment. So just allow yourself to go at your own pace with this, but it will help you in the long run. The next thing I'd like to encourage you to look at, if you haven't done already, is health. And I'm talking particularly now about your physical health, your body. As we know, our body is a temple, if you will, a housing, a vehicle for our soul, our essence, so that it can have the experience of this life in this environment on planet Earth. Without the physical body, we know we wouldn't be able to have the experiences that we are having in our life. So it's very important that we look after and upkeep the physical vessel. And the first thing we can start by, what are we consuming? So let's start with food and drink. What are you consuming? And when you observe what you're consuming and observe how your body, your physicality is reacting to those things, so certain substances or drink or foods, and your body will give you a reaction to it. Maybe you may get a feeling, a sensation, may make you feel out of alignment and feel sluggish. A great example of this, as you all know, we've just gotten through Christmas, and in the UK, there's a big emphasis on comfort food, sweet cakes and crisp, savoury food and all of that, nibbles and things. And that's kind of associated with the festive time of year where you just kick back and you just indulge and enjoy yourself and have these little treats and things. But after a period of time in doing that, I generally think for me, it's after Boxing Day, I start to recognize that my body is feeling sluggish and my energy levels have gone down and the way that I process things in my mind has slowed down. And some reason, this always happens, but there's a good side to that because obviously we work hard all year. And when we have the ability to have this holiday where we take a back seat and slow down, it can be very beneficial. But your body will also give you signals, messages that it needs to get out of that sluggish behavior and feeling uninspired. And for me, this happens to me every year. And the end of 2025 was no exception. And so after Boxing Day, I was noticing that I was feeling sluggish, unmotivated, needed to get some movement. And so what I did, I went to the gym. I did my workout there. That got my immune system up. It got my brain firing on all cylinders. And also it pushed that oxygen and blood flow around my physical body. And I had an additional amount of energy. And, I just focused on how I felt about the foods that I was consuming from that point. And for some reason, for me, I wasn't feeling hungry. Now, you would think by going to the gym and doing all of this, that you would feel hungry after doing all of that exercise. Well, for me, I wasn't. I was more I would describe it as grazing. So little bits of food, not massive amounts of stodgy food to fill you up. And I did that based upon how I was observing how my body was feeling and what it was craving, what it needed. And I listened to that and I followed it. So it's very important that you listen and observe your physical body and notice what it craves and what it needs to function to the best of its ability. Now, sometimes your brain may override that. And this is where the cravings come in. And that need for certain substances that we've always had that we regard as comforting. It could be alcohol. It could be, like I say, alternative stimulants. There's a lot of energy drinks out there at the moment, and a lot of people reach to them or high sugar based foods in order to get themselves out of that sluggish mood, don't they? To pick them up really quickly. It's a quick fix, a quick hit. But, you do experience crash and burn if you rely on that sort of thing. But I would definitely recommend that you do some form of exercise. For me, it was the gym. For yourself, it could be, just a brisk walk after Boxing Day or whenever. Take the dogs for a walk, a change of scenery, fresh air. That can have a major positive impact on you. But also with the health, I've already sort of scratched the surface. And your diet, there's other elements such as the people that you associate with, their vibration, their opinions. As we know, when we've spoken to certain individuals in our circle, we can feel either empowered, energized, inspired, or we can feel drained, lethargic, unmotivated just by having a 5-minute conversation with them. And I'm not judging people because we all have our own paths to tread. We all have our own lessons to learn. But your physicality will let you know about this. And so it's just about paying attention and keeping yourself at optimum when you can. You can't always do it, I know. But if you can choose peace and alignment over, struggle and frustration, then I would always encourage peace. The next thing I'd like to address is mental clarity. Now, mental clarity, this can go in so many areas, can't it? Because let's face it, we all have that internal monologue, little voice in our head, and it's usually in our own voice tone or similar to it. And this is operating every single moment of every single day, and it can trick us to perceive things differently. But with mental clarity, as we know, we have thousands and thousands of thoughts every single day, and they come and they go very quickly. And it's just sort of deciphering and sort of deciding which thought you're going to give your time and attention to. If you've got this nagging thought in your head, I really must go down into town and buy this and do that and do that. At that point, maybe you need to question that thought. Do I really need that? Do I really need those shoes? I've got, I'm just giving an example now. I've got hundreds of shoes. Why do I need another pair? Even though my thoughts are saying, get down in town and get yourself another pair. I know it's probably a poor example, but what I'm referring to is question the thought. Is it a priority? Is it necessary? Is it going to bring me peace? Is it going to bring me drama? Is it going to add to my experience? Is it going to take away from my experience? And every thought, we can do this with every thought, and it can be quite a lengthy process until you get into the habit of actually being the third party rather than investing your energy straight away into a thought that's just popping into your head. And when you get into that discipline is probably the best word I could use, then your life begins to change and you have that mental clarity and you're okay about just being in silence, sitting in peace. You're all right about not investing your time and energy and focus on trivial matters that have maybe consumed your energy and your vibration for years up until this point. When you reach that destination, life can look completely different for you in a positive way. So obviously, it is up to you, but I would certainly encourage you to work on that mental clarity of yours. If you're like me, which most of us have been through a situation in our lives where our mind has been on overdrive and we've been consumed with thoughts and we've let thoughts overrun our consciousness, that can then have an impact on our physical health, which can trigger either a condition or an ailment or an illness potentially, all from thinking and overthinking. I myself experienced sciatica many, many years ago because I was thinking in a certain way and I was thinking in that loop. I wasn't moving out of that loop in my mind. And because of that, I then began to manifest sciatica into my physical experience. So I had to change the way I thought about those thoughts that I was having and move out of that. Obviously, as well, I was encouraged to do stretching and various exercises to help that sciatic nerve as well, which I did. But I believe the main issue that triggered it was the way that I was thinking at the time. So I thought I'd share that with you so that you can have an understanding how powerful you are and what an impact your thoughts can have on your experience as a human being. So questioning the thoughts and prioritizing thoughts and where you're going to place your focus on is paramount, in my opinion, because you can change your experience. And something that I've always aligned with, a phrase that says, you can change what's the phrase? I've forgotten it. This is how my mind works. It comes and it goes. But basically, this is it. I've got it. It's come back. You're one thought away from changing your reality. And that's very true, isn't it? Because you can make decisions in that statement, in that experience that can literally, when you put your time, your focus and energy on, you can change your life because you're letting go of that old narrative and exploring a new one. So mental clarity, questioning the thought patterns is very, very important. I also would like to address spiritual fulfillment. Now, what I mean by this is we all need something to believe in. Now, it doesn't matter what your religion is, what your focus is, but we all need something, don't we, to keep us motivated, to keep us moving, and to keep us aligned and on point and on path. So spiritual fulfillment for me personally, as I work with spiritual medium. And for me, it's getting that connection with my spiritual team, having that clear communication and having that trust, that alignment and respect where they can communicate with me at any time they wish to do so. And I can do the same with them. And that trust and that respect is there, both sides. And with this being the case, for me personally, it does bring about a lot of spiritual fulfillment where it's almost as if the saying is, I've got your back, you've got my back, that trust. And it's a lovely feeling to have that experience. And you don't just have to be a medium to have that experience. You can communicate with your higher self, the higher version of yourself, which in essence, that's what we're talking about today, to get into alignment with the best version of yourself. And I've had it where I've communicated with my higher self and had conversations in my mind, and I've received information coming back. And for me, it comes back in the form of feelings. If something feels good, that is a positive affirmation that I'm on the right track and I've made the right thought processes and decisions to get at that point. If something feels frustrating, tired, draining, then that is telling me that actually you need to have a look at the way that you're thinking and the choices that you are making because they're not in alignment with the higher self. So I get it through emotions when I'm communicating with my higher self, and it's very subtle, and you do have to pay attention because you can second guess it very easily. And when you first do it, no, I'm just making it up. No, why am I feeling that? No, I'm just imagining it. And you go through a process of going through that until lots of synchronicities and evidential information line up to prove to you that you're not making it up. And this is how you build that level of trust up. And this is how I, going back to what I was originally talking about, have spiritual fulfillment, knowing that security, that beautiful alignment and connection is always there, and it works two ways, as I've just said there. I'd also like to encourage you to listen to more music, because I find personally that music is a wonderful tool that keeps on giving. And if you realize that when you get in your car or you put the ear pods in or whatever preference it is, you listen to music. Before you select something, you're scrolling through the tunes and, the music that you have and what is available to you. And when you find something, you think, yes, I want to listen to that. To me, that is some sort of vibrational alignment that's happening there. And you're picking up on that feeling, that inspiration to listen to that song. And I believe that within music, there are frequency codes, high vibrational downloads, and information that we're not fully conscious of at the time. Until we listen to it, those ingredients, I feel, have like an alignment with our soul. I mean, how many times have we listened to a piece of music and instantly we feel better, we feel more happy, we feel more energized. Our mood is changed instantly because of it. And because of that, our mood changing, I feel that also has an impact on our physicality. And the frequencies that have just played out before us can help us get more in alignment with our true self. So music is very important. So trust the process when you're going through a playlist or whatever. Trust that you're meant to hear that song and you are guided to listen to that song for a specific reason in your vibration, in your energy, that you needed that. Some people talk about music being medicine, and I believe that's very true because of the experiences that I've had with music. And I'm sure a lot of you that are listening to this will have had that experience also, where you may have been in a terrible mood. The minute you put an album on, that's it. Your vibration has changed. It's a really good tool, music is. Something that I've been doing over the month of December of 2025, and this came to me from my guides. It was a feeling that I had to listen to this, and it's vibrational healing music. Music, it's more sound. It's like a soundscape than musical compositions, if I'm honest. But I was drawn to certain ones on YouTube, and you can get some on there that last 4 hours in length, and it's like a soundscape, and they're pitched at certain healing frequencies. And with some of them, there's binaural beats, which is a technology that plays certain sounds out of phase with the other ear. So different timings. So you hear something in one ear at one time, split second later in the other. And it causes this sort of reaction in the brain where it kind of, I want to say, like reshuffles and balances the brainwaves. And so I was inspired to do that in December of last year, 2025. And what I was finding when I was doing that is I was focusing in on my affirmational work whilst I was doing it. And rather than focusing on the end outcome of the affirmations, I was focusing in on how those affirmations made me feel. So for example, how does happiness feel? I was dialing into how happiness felt for me. And whilst I was listening to these frequencies and also absorbing the vibrational qualities of them into the physical body, I was zoned into the feeling of happiness. And just holding that thought, holding that space in my consciousness for that vibration to be the dominant one of happiness. It was a beautiful experience. And I was doing these sessions every time for around 20 minutes. And then towards the 20 minute of that process, I began to feel that myself coming back. And I'm talking about my consciousness that was focusing in on happiness was starting to come back into my physicality, my reality. And with that being said, I then turned the composition off, the music off, and I opened my eyes and I just sat there for a minute and just really basked in that feeling of peace and happiness. And already I could tell that my vibration had changed. My perspective has changed. Please forgive me, everybody. I don't know why, but my words are coming out jumbled for some reason. Maybe it's because the alignments that I'm talking about have occurred and I'm just playing catch up with the new version of myself. That's what I perceive anyway. So yeah, I was doing that and doing the frequency work, stillness and the affirmational work. And I was finding that has helped me tremendously over the festive season. And if I'm honest with you, I'm not a big fan of the festive season. For me, all the consumerism and the advertising and doing what everybody else is doing, that doesn't really sit right for me. However, what I do like about the festive season are people, family, friends coming together, being there for one another, holding space for one another, and sharing those precious memories with one another. For me, that's what Christmas is all about. So yeah. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent yet again, haven't I? But I'd like to move in and talk on about acceptance. And going through all of the things I've described to you today, there has to be a level of acceptance where you're just okay. And I'm going back to that word of surrender again, aren't I? Where my guides have talked to me in great depth on the word of is. And when you hold space for the word is, it's an amazing feeling because you're connecting with everything and everyone. And it just is. You don't have to work out the mechanics, how it works, what happens behind the scenes, what are they thinking, what am I thinking, where's my manifestations or anything like that. It just is. It all is. It's all in the now. It's all present. So when we focus on the word is, we surrender and we're acceptant of those facts. We don't need to know the details. When you get into alignment with that vibration, in my experience, everything begins to change around you for the better. And you'll be very surprised. It's very subtle when it begins, but when you're paying attention, you'll start to notice, and it can become quite magical to you when you witness these things unfolding in your life. So yeah, get into the vibration of is. And by doing that, you're not needing to know the outcome. You don't need to know the specific details, the who's, the where's, the what's, the when's, the why's. All of those statements are removed out of your consciousness as you are focusing in on is. If you can, maybe for those of you that want to, that is, when you're having a meditation or a moment of clarity or quietness, just visualize the word is and say it in your mind and feel into it. I guarantee your vibration will change for the better. So miracles will start to happen as a result of doing that. So trust the process, trust in universal alignment, doing its best for you in every single moment. So I hope this conversation has given you something to maybe ponder over the next few hours to help you connect in with a higher self alignment, the highest vibrational form of yourself. And it's particularly interesting, I find, that we're talking about this subject at the very beginning of 2026, as most of you will have made New Year resolutions. Most of you don't go into that. Other people will be making affirmations, what you desire. Other people will be connecting vibrationally, what you feel. So it's a great moment to bring this subject up to your attention, to your consciousness. A lot of you will already know this information that I'm sharing with you, but my guide brought this information forward to jog your memory, to maybe offer some techniques so that you can get back into the highest version of yourself. And when you do that, when you allow that to occur, because it is a choice, let's face it, when we move at that vibration, your life begins to change for the better. Things start to happen very quickly, and you're more trusting, more allowing of those experiences. So give it a try. You've got nothing to lose. And I assure you that your 2026 will be a beautiful one if you maybe start and adopt some of these principles that I've mentioned in today's show. If I could share with you some of my encounters over the festive season, I would love to do that. I feel very blessed to have had a lovely Christmas with my family and my friends. And it was just what I personally needed. As many of you know, I'm continually working with spirit, serving clients, doing healings. The list can go on, doing this content on the radio shows and other interviews. And 2025 was a full-on year for me, work-wise, working at paranormal events and investigations, filming 2 different TV shows as well. And that was an amazing privilege and a passion of mine to be involved with. And then there was other work that I was having to do to make ends meet, because many of you may or may not know that this line of work is like many lines of work, really. There are peaks and troughs within it, where financially you need a little bit of a boost there just to keep things ticking over. So for me, 2025 has been a very busy year, where I've just been continually working so hard, and up until 10 p.m. in the evening on most nights there. And I've been working 6 days a week. And so for me, my point being is Christmas was of 2025 was an amazing stop point, where the readings and the spiritual work and that were winding down for the Christmas season. And the other work that I do was winding down for the Christmas season. So I had no other choice but to just go with the energies, go with the flow, rest and recuperate. So as much as I enjoyed it, there was a little bit of a struggle at the beginning of the holidays, where I was trying to keep my brain busy, keeping myself entertained and working at the level and the pace that I had been doing throughout the course of 2025. However, part of me had to resist that urge to continue that momentum, and I just had to go with the flow, sit with the energies, and just allow what is. Again, going back to that word we was talking about previously, to connect in with the is vibration, and do, in actual fact, some of that harmonic resonance, vibrational, affirmational work that I spoke of earlier. So I took that opportunity, and you know what? I feel now so chilled out, so relaxed, so accepting of the new adventures that life has to offer, where potentially, had I continued on that pathway of racing ahead, keeping myself busy, I would have never arrived at this new vibration that I believe that I have entered. And for me, that was the gift of the Christmas holidays. But also during this time, it was great to observe my family, my 2 daughters as well, and how much they have changed, and beginning to grow, and just how beautiful they are, with their temperament, with their personalities, and obviously physically as well. But that was a nice eye-opener for me during the festive period. Obviously, they're with me most of the time throughout the year, but because everybody's busy, everybody just seems to be busy, don't they, at the moment, trying to make ends meet and just, pushing forward. You don't always get that quality family time, and also spending that with my sister and her family and my mum. That was the tonic for me, what I just needed. Again, to wind down, I felt very, very blessed to have such a beautiful family, and they looked after me brilliant. Honestly, I don't expect anything of anybody or anyone. But they were very insistent that, no, you sit there. No, we'll do that. No, there you go. Those presents are for you. Are you sure? Yes, we're sure. And to have that level like that, honestly, it was very healing. I found it tremendously healing. And also, I experienced a miracle during this period as well. And I put this down to me changing my vibration and getting into alignment with what is meant. When something is meant for you, it won't pass you by. I won't go into any specific details around this. All I will say is that this has been on my manifestation list for a while now. And to actually welcome this into my life has been such a tonic. Yes, and I wasn't expecting this to come in at all. Anyway, I'm going to let you guess on that one. I'm not going to go into specifics with that, as I say, but it was a beautiful arrival. And I can just hear all the head scratching. What is he talking about? Why doesn't he just tell us? Well, no, I'm going to leave you hanging at this point. But my point being is really when you get into this vibration of slowing down and alignment, then you can work with the universe, like we were saying earlier. And for me, that's what happened to me over the festive period. So I absolutely embodied it and embraced it. And now I'm ready to roll my sleeves up and crack on with the year of 2026 and see what it has to bring in for us. So now we're going to move into the channeling from Spirit. So sit back, relax, take some notes if you wish, and enjoy this week's channeling.
Hello. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. We want to talk to you about various energetic changes that you are all going through. You are all becoming increasingly sensitive to the new vibrations that are coming in September of 22. You will all pick up on each other's vibrations, their emotions, their feelings. The energy does not lie. It always comes to the surface, and those that are of a sensitive nature will be able to read and understand this information a little bit more clearly. This month will see you making positive changes within your life as you will start to understand who you are as a person, and this person who you are is not necessarily the one that you always perceived yourself to be in your physicality. You will become more aware of your higher self, your soul. And this soul wants the best for you, the very best for you. In fact, more so than what you've ever imagined. You'll be encouraged to move beyond your physical limitations and your mental limitations within your own lives as you have placed yourselves in a box. That box is limiting your truth of who you are, and so you will be feeling new ways of being, and with this in mind, you will want to explore on this wonderful energetic adventure. We're laughing a little bit because we know how exciting it all is for you. Hope you don't mind. It's very unusual. Forgive me for laughing, but this is the first time I've come through as a communicator through the vessel here. And it's rather amusing. It's a very peculiar sensation for us to come through. In fact, we'll tell you a little bit about it, shall we? About the process where we do come through. Where we have to, as you already might know, lower our vibrations in order to match that with the vessel, and the vessel heightens their vibrations to match our vibrations, and in doing so, we meet in the middle. And in this meeting of energies in the middle, that's when the blend can occur. And for us, it can feel quite peculiar to be in a physical form again. It's like putting on an old work suit, a boiler suit, if you will. And it's very unusual sensation because we have control, if you like, with the vehicle's permission of all the faculties. So it's very unusual for us to be in this form. That's why we're laughing. And so we blend our energies. We hold our vibration with the vehicle in order to manipulate the vocal cords and also to transmit words and messages and frequency through the vessel. The vessel, however, has to be trained in these methods to let go and just allow this information to come through, not caring one jot what information comes through, simply going into a form of relaxation, almost like a meditation. And so they relax their breathing and allow themselves to drift off. Some vehicles or vessels, if you like, will report the feeling like they're standing behind their own physical body. And in many ways, this is what their essence is doing, to allow us, as the spirit communicator, to step forward and bring this communication forward. So it's rather a peculiar process when we do blend and come through. So we're very, as you can probably tell by our voice, we're very excited to come through and communicate with you in this fashion today. But the majority of the message today is to alarm you to all of these changes that are coming in energetically. You will feel more full of beans, high vibrational. You won't be putting on the brakes anymore in your life. You'll be removing those elements of fear and lower-based energies, and you will just be going for it in the knowing and the knowledge that everything's going to work out beautiful for you. So we hope that gives you the inspiration to let go of the shackles of the past and remove those limiting belief systems. You will find that energy will catapult you forward in order for you to make this next transmission or transition even in your life. It's wonderful. There's a lot of you actually that are sensitive will feel the urge and the need to travel a lot more than what you are doing or what you have been doing in your past. This urge is encouraged by us for you to go and witness various facets within your locations and also spread that seed of love and light and happiness and that vibration of high vibrational content. So those people and those visitors collectively to those areas you are visiting will in turn pick up on these new vibrations. So when you are feeling this inspiration to travel, it's for a good reason. The reason is, like we say, is to heighten the vibration of all those that come in contact with the energy trails that you leave behind in these areas. So when you feel the need, when you feel the urge, get your things together and go for it. You will be safe and you will be cared for, and the money and the finances and the things that you require in order to make these journeys possible will be provided to you. So do not worry. Everything is in perfect order. Well, my time here is up. I've been told to move on and allow another communicator to come through. But it's been an absolute pleasure to come through and communicate with you today. I've loved every second of it, and I've just been informed I will be making another visit in a later stage, if that's okay with everybody. So thank you, and please bear with me, or with us, should I say, as we make some necessary adjustments with the vessel and ourselves to allow the next communicators to come through for you. Thank you for listening. Please accept my love. Bye for now.
What a fantastic channeling there from the world of spirit, and very prompt as well, and very sort of relatable for what we've been talking about for this episode as well. So really enjoyed that, and I hope you all did as well. I'm very much looking forward to the channelings that hopefully will come forward for the episodes of this year of 2026. And I'd like to really take it a little bit further, maybe inviting the galactics to come in and step forward and share their knowledge and wisdom with you all, because I find that fascinating. So that's one of my intentions, working with spirit and energy in the form of trance mediumship this year. And so I hope we can deliver some healings, vibrational healings through the frequencies and the tones within the voice. And who knows, we may even get some light language, some healing codes, some affirmational codes coming through, even some DNA reconfigurations. That's what I'd like to occur actually for the year of 2026 with these channelings moving forward. So I'm putting that intention out there. So let's see how it goes. Obviously, I never make demands, but I'll put the request out there to the universe, and let's see as a collective what comes forward. So now we're going to move into this week's forecast reading. Hello, my name is Glenn Boddice and I'm a spiritual medium, and welcome to this week's energy forecast reading for the week commencing Monday the 5th of January 2026. First of all, I'd like to wish you all a very happy new year, and what I do is I connect with my spirit guides and helpers, and I also connect with the wisdom of the angel tarot card. So I'm going to shuffle the pack and allow a card to come out for this week's forecast reading. So this is your card for this week's reading. I'm now going to link into the vibration of it. First of all, I'm hearing the word renewal. Now, yes, it is a new year, but there'll be parts of you that will want to go back into old habits, old rituals, old routines from your previous year of 2025. And you need to resist the urge to continue that cycle, because in this week, you'll notice there's going to be some substantial changes within your life, tweaks, if you will, to the way that you go about doing things. And it may start to cause you confusion in your mind. So resist the urge to control the situation, go with the flow. This week will also see you actually negotiating better terms for yourself. Now, this is whether it's in a relationship, whether it is in a work environment, or just a communication or connection with friends and associates. But this is the end of the free version of the weekly forecast reading. If you would like to see the entirety of this week's forecast reading, then you can do that by subscribing. And as a subscriber, what you will receive is the full version of the weekly forecast reading. You will also receive the audio for the weekly radio show, and also you'll receive 10% off all of my spiritual services there. So this includes all of the readings there for you to benefit from. And also you will receive new updates and information and news of what's happening with myself and the services that I provide, and also the events that I take part in. You'll hear all about that ahead of everybody else. And this is because you're a subscriber to Glenn Boddice Spiritual Medium. So you can find a link either above or below this video, where by clicking on the link, you can then become a subscriber to reap all of the benefits that I've described to you. So I look forward to having you on this journey with me as a Glenn Boddice Spiritual Medium subscriber. Thank you for taking time to watch this video and supporting the work that Spirit and myself work together in doing so. Well, albeit a sneaky peek, it sounds very fascinating what is set to come forward for us this year, doesn't it? This particular week coming forward. So anyway, I would like to thank you for listening to the show. I hope you've enjoyed the content and the information. If you would like to get in contact with me, head over to my website, www.glennboddicespiritualmedium.com, or you can email me at glennboddice@live.co.uk. It'll be fascinating to hear from you. But in the meantime, I look forward to your company, same place, same time next Monday. God bless. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to From Beyond. For more information about what products and services Glenn provides, go to Glenn Boddice Spiritual Medium